And welcome to another edition of our broadcast. You know, I have been a collector of art for over 30 years. I consider myself a patron of the arts. For anyone who has a hunger and a thirst for world history, civilizations from the Incas to the Aztecs to the Gutenberg Bible and the printing press, which was the first form of social media. When you think about our great revolution and the incredible relationship between our founding father, George Washington, and Lafayette, and you think about the lives that were sacrificed as generations deep for us to celebrate our freedom of the day, and you fast forward to Dolly Madison when the British were trying to burn down the White House, how she saved our Constitution and other important documents. There's no other place that is of a greater resource than art galleries and museums. The cultural significance and what they significantly contribute to the cultural landscape of community and how they transform it and how they show art form in areas from around the world, which gives the public a chance to see and experience and really appreciate firsthand the art that they may never have an opportunity to appreciate otherwise. When you think about L'Enfant Gallery, and our guest today, Peter, in Georgetown, Washington, D.C., which provides a space not only for community events and programming, they organize artists and talks. They give credibility and meaning to the artists in their communities and around the world. And so art is an imitation of life. You cannot separate it from life. Even on the battlefields, when we didn't have these things like cameras and videos, you had artists putting their lives on the line just with a pencil and pad, just drawing everything so people could always understand and capture that history. And of all the galleries, and I've gone to many galleries in my life, especially ones in New York and Europe, L'Enfant Gallery in Georgetown, Washington, D.C. is one of the most spectacular galleries filled with history, culture, and such significance that I've ever experienced. And it's such an honor for me to have its owner, Peter, join us today. Thank you for joining us and welcome to the broadcast. It's a pleasure to have you. How were you drawn to this genre?
Well, I have always been, and I am now, a very lucky person. Some people say you make your luck, but I've always been a student as well. In the early days, when I was an undergraduate at Catholic University, I had occasion to meet a man who understood better than I did that where I was going, which was an acting career, was not where I should be. And he advised me to join him. He had a museum in Oxon Hill, Maryland, enormous, like 15 times, 20 times the size of my gallery, packed with all the most beautiful, important, historic, aesthetic objects in the world. And he was my teacher. I learned from him. I learned how to look. I learned how to appreciate. I got to touch things. I got to feel things. I got to see things.
No, let me interrupt you there, because you said something of great significance. When people inquire as to why did I purchase this piece or that piece, and I said, you know what? The art purchases me, because when I walk into a gallery or a thrift shop or some flea market, the art speaks to you.
Always.
It speaks to your soul. It speaks to your spirit. It's a calling. Come,
exactly.
Come.
Exactly.
And it's never, have I ever gone to a place looking to buy the art. The art forces me. It draws you in. It's just a feeling.
That's how it all got there for me. Every single piece derailed anything else I was doing, and said, I'm choosing you. And I said, yes, yeah. Always embrace it. Always say yes. There are no no's in art. There are no non-friends in art. but these things demand to be heard and seen. And if you've got the vibration in you and you respond to them, it's just a happy highway the entire life.
You know, we sent our videographers over to the gallery to really take them inside. We're going to see that at the top of the next segment. But share with our audience the history that you've touched through your galleries and through your travels, the pieces and the significance. Just give us a walk through your history of some of the things that have come your way that you've sold that you still have.
I have to say, that's a great question, but difficult because I never know what I'm going to find.
Well, let me help you out.
I don't know where it comes from.
Let me help you out. You know, I'm a big fan of the King James Version of the Bible. I have never really seen a portrait of King James until I literally walked in your gallery, and there was this magnificent piece,
yes,
framed in gray, of King James. And I know for a fact that that portrait was once in the possession of Queen Elizabeth.
Yes, that's correct.
Yes.
That's correct.
And there it was in your gallery.
Yeah. These things amaze me. It's a combination of being at the right place at the right time and realizing what it is that you're looking at, but sometimes not realizing, just being drawn in by it.
And we're going to be drawn into it because when we come back at the very top of the show, Xavier Underwood went to the gallery and he sat down with Peter to walk through culture, history, economies, and so much significance. That and much more when we return with our very special guest, the owner of L'Enfant Gallery in Georgetown, Washington, D.C. Don't go away.
In the heart of Georgetown, L'Enfant Gallery offers visitors a glimpse into the past.
The fact that we're in Georgetown and that we have a large corner establishment means to me that we have to share what we have with the community. The community here is very diverse. Tens of thousands of people walk by our door every week. We have a couple of thousand who come in. It's almost like a museum experience. It's taken me my entire life to put this collection together. I'm at a point now where I am in business. I do want to sell them, but I like to share what they are with the wider community, especially Georgetown and all of its various moving parts of that really sustain us. Our neighbors sustain us, and we'd like to give back as much as we can.
Visitors can explore everything from historic portraits to exquisite landscape paintings, with each piece telling a story of the past.
One of the things that I've always prided myself on is having an open door policy. My idea is that these things are really meant to be enjoyed and not to be taken that seriously, but be enjoyed in terms of making people joyful. These things are the collected creativity of the world over the last 500,000 years, from Africa, Asia, Europe, America, and to breathe this atmosphere, to be able to see them, and to try and communicate that to the people who come in is my greatest joy. And I hope that they get a sense of lightness and wanting to, well, on the best of circumstances, wanting to own them and make these things part of their lives.
For Peter Colasante, L'Enfant Gallery is more than just an art gallery. It's a space that connects people to the past, offering a window into history through a curated collection of timeless pieces.
Outside.
You know, I just saw a glimpse of, in the gallery, was that Daniel Webster in that great speech?
Yes.
In that
yes, it was.
Huge...
It's Daniel Webster delivering the Compromise of 1850 speech, the speech that literally held off the Civil War for 10 years by, some say, accommodating the South and the North. But it brought California into the Union. And it was.
Is that original?
That is not only original, but we believe there's certain evidence that Webster, who was a great showman as well as a great orator and the lion of the Senate, knew this would be the most important speech of his life. It was 5.5 hours. And he knew the artist. And I think he said, you come down and sketch everybody in place while this is happening. And then I want a portrait of each of the 106 members of Congress, which took the artist 2 years to do, one by one. It's the most brilliant miniature you've ever seen of everyone in the Senate, everyone in the House at that time in the old Senate chamber. It's April 7th, 1850.
You know, I saw some of the most extraordinary sketches of presidents of these United States and first ladies in your gallery.
I have, you asked me about great things I've had. I was incredibly lucky and honored to find in Dallas, Texas, of all places, the 2 original paintings of President John F. Kennedy, done by Elaine de Kooning, the great artist, and the only person who did an authorized painting of Kennedy while he was alive. I brought those to Washington. I was able to buy them publicly for absolutely no money, because nobody recognized what they were. I brought them to Washington, and it's one of my great experiences that having them for a number of years, as I have most great things, many people came to know that I had them. The painting, a very large portrait, 8 by 4 feet, which was meant to be the official portrait of President Kennedy, but never got to be, drew in, of all people, Laura Bush. Mrs. Bush was a frequent visitor and a wonderful person. And she confided in me that she had a crush on JFK when she was a young girl.
A lot of girls.
But I was not to tell.
Yeah, a lot of
she'd get in trouble.
A lot of girls. You know, it's interesting because I was at your gallery recently, and I saw the original code of honor that old Europe used in their windows to show off the family emblem in the family history. I saw the one from the Washington family, and what was interesting about it, Washington was spelled with 2 S's and not one, which reminded me that the Washingtons originally were from Europe, but once they found themselves in the States, one of the S was lost, and it became Washington. But I saw that, and it also had the coat of arms of the District of Columbia with the 3 red stars.
Right, exactly. Yeah, it's a fascinating thing. How do things that we take for granted, where do they come from? And our flag of the District of Columbia, of course, would come, if it's original, from the designer of the District of Columbia. The designer was Pierre L'Enfant. That's why I named the gallery L'Enfant, in his honor. But even more than that, L'Enfant designed this city for George Washington.
And said, it's going to bear your name. Can we use your coat of honors as the symbol and the flag for the District of Columbia?
Yeah, exactly.
And you have that.
I have that. Just these things they just come to me because I'm interested, and I give them nobody owns anything, as you know, but I love being a trustee. I love caring for these things.
And also it has the crown and like a dove.
Yes, there's a knight and a crown over signaling that they were a highly placed family and had done service to the king, whichever king it is. There's a long, long history.
Look, never enough time to talk about the cultural significance of arts and arts galleries, and we have Peter Colasante as our guest today, director of the L'Enfant Gallery, and we'll be back because we got to talk about this guy here. This guy here freed the slaves, okay? This guy here deserves a lot of love. Got a lot of love for this guy. We'll be back.
It is easier to build up strong children than to try and repair broken men.
The streets are plagued with crime, violence, There's a lot of poverty, and it's all a result of lack of education that's happening in our schools. So it really is a crisis.
We come from very different political perspectives, but we've come to the same conclusion, and that is there is a crisis in the classroom. Children are being deprived of quality of life because they're being deprived of a good education. We must solve this problem. It's incumbent upon all of us to join hands together to get this done.
We can't afford to wait one more day before we address these issues, because every day we lose another child.
Let's stop the politicking. Let's stop the games. Let's really do something to give these kids a real chance at life and being a part of that American dream.
We need accountability for funding. Many of the districts where you're seeing very low test scores, students graduating with very low literacy and math comprehension rates, they are receiving a lot of funding. So where is the money going where our kids aren't being adequately educated?
If you believe every child is deserving of a quality education, please go to educationjusticefoundation.com. And I know you just don't show these global artists and world history and cultures. You develop your own artists here in the community and you showcase them and you bring people out for them to see them, to introduce them. Because when you introduce them to DC, you introduce them to the world. We're back with Peter Colasante, the director of the L'Enfant Gallery. Talk about, this is an old piece from the 1800s. Well, it's ancient.
Now I can bring the guest out. There's a special guest I have with me.
Oh, you have a special guest?
I have a special guest.
Hide in
Just
that luggage?
for you, not
human? Is it human? Oh, he's putting on the glove. We're not.
This is.
It's serious when they put on the gloves here.
Serious.
Because you don't want to do anything to erode that it's something that's been around for so long. Are those white gloves? Those are special gloves. But anyhow, this is was this bus? Did it belong to Lincoln's son?
Yes, it did. Yes, it did. It was a gift, we believe, sometime in the 1880s to Robert Todd Lincoln, who was a neighbor who lived in Georgetown on Dumbarton Street, and died in that house. Lived there for decades. It was purchased from him or his estate by the man I had mentioned earlier, who was my teacher. His name was Fred Maloof. And he later sold it to a very famous banker. It was in a collection in San Francisco called the Crocker National Collection. And when Mr. Crocker died, I went to Sotheby's in New York in 1978, and there was Abe, and I brought him home. That's how he's here.
You know, you mentioned Sotheby's. And before you show us the gift, for those who want to be not just art connoisseurs, but those that want to buy art, they have it in their home. Is there a right way to buy art? Because you can buy art from people who haven't realized that they have something of value and they just want to get rid of it. They just want to make a quick buck. Is there any wisdom that you can share with someone that wants to start as an art collector?
I have lots of young people who come in and ask me that question. I mean, every week I have people in school, people just gotten out of school, young couples. And I say, before you go buying anything online, offline, at auctions, but go to every gallery you can. Just bedevil the owners, ask them thousands of questions. How did this happen to come? Where is this from? Why is this original? How do you know it's an etching? But ask questions and go to museums. Go to every art show you can. Go to every museum. Black, white, green, any culture, just do it. And after a while, this is a synthesis happens.
A light will go. Show us the gift.
Okay.
Okay. So,
so this Abe. That was the original, which was done in 1860 in Chicago. It's long before he was president. At the time this statue was made, he was a one-term congressman with not much of a future. This is before he was nominated for the presidency, 1 week before.
Oh, stop. We're going to take a break. We're going to tease him a little more. We'll take a break, and we come back in the final moments and have you present this gift. Don't go away.
As a home buyer, you need a lender who cares about your home ownership dreams. United Security Financial has been helping families secure their dream homes for 30 years. We're a national fair practice lender that provides affordable mortgages and low down payment programs to eligible home buyers. To learn how United Security Financial can help you secure your dream home, call 1-800-373-4186.
Wow, look at this gift from the Mask of Abraham Lincoln by Leonard Valk. And look at the bottom, to the Right Honorable Lord George from Valk. Oh, George, who was the Prime Minister of England during the time of the war.
Yes.
All right, talk about this mask. And I like to, ooh, look at this. Talk about it, Peter.
Okay. I'll try and make this brief. It's an involved story. Lincoln gets a notice because the governor of Illinois in 1860 wants to have statues as Roman senators of all the former congressmen and senators. Somebody has to do this. So there's a sculptor by the name of Oak in Chicago. And everybody goes and has this plaster poured over their face and has assistants take it off. And they make a mold from that, and from the mold comes a mask, and the mask they use to make the statue. Okay. Lincoln is late. He goes the wrong day. He's got the address right, but the sculptor says, we need 3 people to do this. And Lincoln says, ah, shucks. He says, I'll be your assistant. And he slathers the plaster on him. He sticks straws up his own nose and does not move, which is almost physically impossible because you hold people down so they don't move for over 40 minutes. Does not move a muscle. When it's done, you have to take the mask off. Usually they have 2 assistants cut pieces. Lincoln says, I can do this, in high voice, and spends the next half hour at a 16th inch of a time because he had total muscular control. He peels the entire mask from his head perfectly and hands to the guy.
Wow.
Okay? That's astonishing enough. 2 weeks later, he comes back to see the finished product, or sometime later. Meanwhile, he's been nominated for the presidency. And he looks at it and he says, that's the genuine animal. And he doesn't want the mask because he thought he was the ugliest cuss ever. He leaves the mask there. He says, do what you want with it. The mold becomes incredibly valuable because Lincoln becomes president 2 weeks after that.
What a
So
story.
suddenly this artist is the most in-demand artist on the planet to show the world the new president of the United States.
You know, in the minute and a half, oh, Mr. Lincoln, in the minute and a half that we have left, tell us why art is truly the spice of life.
Oh, you said earlier, art imitates life. I think often art is equal to life and life imitates art. All 3 are true. We can't live without it. It's something that makes every day worth living, every day brighter, and something to look forward to for everyone. Some of my best customers are bus drivers who stop the buses and get out to buy things in the window.
Oh, yeah, one in the shop. You know, if I were thinking about, I'm really thinking about buying this piece. How much is this piece of art here?
It's about $75,000.
That's not bad.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Maybe. Maybe.
It's all relative.
It's all relative. That's a nice piece.
Yes, it
I
is.
mean, so elegant.
Yeah.
And it's so, and this piece here took place in Rome.
Yes. 10 seconds. The mold broke.
Yes.
They couldn't fix it. There's no one in America could fix it. Leonard Volk, the father, takes the mask in the 1870s to Rome, where his son is studying sculpture, Douglas Volk. They go to a man who understands how to make the mold.
In other words, he makes it, he repairs it. We're out of time. Visit L'Enfant Gallery in Georgetown, Washington, D.C. You're not only going to see Lincoln, you will eventually see yourself. Peter Colasante, thank you so much. No, leave the glove on.
My great pleasure.
My great pleasure. And thank you for having fun with us on this special edition of the Armstrong Williams Show.